I'm Christine White in the Beads Incorporated studio, and today we are going to be making our own beaded tassels using Chinese crystals, some check glass beads, and griffin silk cord. Some materials that you're going to need for this technique are griffin silk cord with the needle attached on it, some beads of your choice, 3 to 4 millimeters and probably about 3 to 4 strands, 20 gauge gold craft wire, a bead cap or bead cone with a deep well in it, super new glue or some type of fast drying super glue, a jump ring, wire cutters, and a round nose plier. So let's get started. We're going to start by tying a knot at the very end of our griffin silk cord. Next, we'll want to determine the length of our overall tassel, keeping in mind that if we want a 3-inch tassel, each section that we're getting ready to string will be approximately 6 inches long, meaning that we're going to double each section over to create that finished length. So, keeping that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and do a 6-inch section. So we'll string our crystals, pulling them off of the fishing line that they come on, and transfer them onto our griffin silk cord, a few at a time, until we've created a 6-inch section. Once we have 6 inches of our crystals strung, we'll tie a knot above the last bead. And it doesn't have to be right on top of it. It can be maybe, a 1/4 of an inch or so above it, so that there's a little bit of room for these crystals to move in between the two knots. Next, we'll tie another knot just about 1/2 inch to 1 inch after that knot to begin our next section. It can be kind of approximate. The idea is just not to waste too much silk in between sections. Now you'll start stringing your next 6 inches of crystals. So we're going to do the same thing on this next section. Tie another knot just slightly above the last crystal with a little bit of slack in that section, about a 1/4 of an inch or so after the last one, so the crystals can still move inside of this section, and then go on to our next section and tie another knot to begin that next section. So you'll see where we're starting to come along with several different sections that are going to make up the parts of our tassel. Now that we have all of our sections strung on our silk cord, we are going to put a tiny dab of super glue on each knot so that we don't have to worry about that knot fraying or coming undone once the tassel is put together. So I'm going to use super glue. You can also use another type of fast drying glue. And we want to put the tiniest dab of glue possible so that it doesn't get all over our crystals, as it tends to be kind of runny. So you're just going to move quickly along each knot, just dropping the tiniest amount of glue possible. And once we've done that, we're going to give it just a few seconds to dry. And then we can go back with a pair of sharp scissors or our wire cutters, and we're going to snip off our excess in each section and cut the sections apart. So we should have just these little crystal worms, as I like to call them. There's 2, 3, and 4, and you could keep on going and make as many of these as you want to, depending on how thick you want your tassel and how many strands you want in it. So if I make 4 little worms, it's going to make me an 8-strand tassel. So those are all done, and they should all be the same length. And next I'm going to use a piece of my 20 gauge gold craft wire. We're going to cut a piece a few inches long. This is way longer than I need, but it's always easier to have too much than not enough, especially if we decide after the fact that we want to embellish above our tassel or something like that. So we're going to use our round nose pliers, hold this closer to one end than the other, make this wrapped loop, leave it open like this right here. Next, we're going to take our little crystal worm sections that we've made, fold them in half and make sure that we fold them in half pretty accurately so that half of each side hangs over our wire piece. And add each one here to our gold loop that we've created. 3 and 4. Once they've all been attached, we can use our red wire cutter or our round nose pliers. Hold it over that loop just to keep the shape while we're twisting. Nice firm hold, and wrap this around itself 2 or 3 times just to make a nice pretty loop there. Next, we're going to add our bead cap to the top. And that's going to sit down over it, holding everything in place and really finishing off our tassel. So our next step is going to be, we can add a bead at the top, but we want to make our loop. So we're going to use our round nose pliers again, hold it slightly above the top of that bead with a little bit of breathing room, wrap this away from us and back towards us. It's much like tying off an earring at this point. Let's give it a nice firm grip there. And at this point we can add a jump ring, and that's what I'm going to do because sometimes I like to make these into pendants, or you can see on my necklace I have 6 tassels. You can make them into earrings, charms, and just wrap this around several times. And then we're ready to snip off our extra. So that is a simple crystal tassel on silk. You can also see that I have some variations here. We can have a lot of fun with creating different patterns with our glass beads that we incorporate. This is kind of a color blocked style. This I used more of a patterned bead, and then I glued turquoise cabochons to the cap after the fact. So you can have a lot of fun mixing and matching, and even just using multicolored beads and oddly matched beads in your tassel as well. It makes a great simple pendant on just a piece of chain as well. So hopefully you learned a thing or two about making silk tassels. Thank you so much for joining me in the Beads Incorporated studio. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and be sure to check us out next time.